Hi, I'm Barbara Hodgson, and today, the 27th of February 2020, I'm talking to the late John Goodman's wife Trish and their second son Andrew about their entire family's involvement with the Nelson Rugby Football Club. John, who was always referred to as Goody, sadly passed away in 2017, and so it's through Trish and Andrew that we recall his valuable history and that of the second and third generation of the Goodman family, which continues to this day. Okay, Trish, I'm going to begin with you first. So tell me a little about who your parents were and where they originated from.
Okay, so my mum was Linda and my dad was Jack Moriarty, and they both, Jack came from the Wellington area and Linda was Nelson born and bred, and they had 7 children, I'm the third of them, and the family revolved a lot around sport. And just recently actually my oldest brother Chris, who is our family historian, sent some messages out that he'd found in newspapers from long ago where Linda was an indoor and outdoor basketball rep for the region.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And Dad was in the Nelson team as a rugby player, a forward player, I don't know.
So your dad, Jack, he actually played for the Nelson Rugby Football Club?
No, not for the Nelson region.
Just, okay.
As a rep player.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did they settle once they married?
Well, they've always lived in Nelson,
Okay.
and Dad worked for Social Security and Inland Revenue Departments.
Okay.
And he made a choice earlier on because he had such a big brood not to chase promotion around the country like a lot of men did.
Mm.
And we were just based in Nelson and had a really stable family life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he passed away he was quite young when he passed
57,
away.
57,
yeah.
Coronary.
Mm.
Very sudden, and it was a week before my oldest brother got married, so it was quite traumatic.
Bit of a tough time for you.
Yeah,
Mm.
it was.
So your mother, what was her maiden name?
Nap.
Nap. She was a Nap.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so her family were out in the Wakefield area, and I can remember when we were young we used to go out to our auntie's home out there, and she was a wonderful baker and we'd all be on our best manners under threat, and she would bring out these delicious afternoon teas.
Okay.
So we watched our P's and Q's and then were let loose outside to explore Wakefield. Yeah.
So was sport a big part of your family, the Moriarty family?
It sure was, yeah. And for the girls it was athletics and swimming and netball.
Okay.
And the guys were rugby players.
Yeah. I notice Chris, so he's your oldest brother.
Yes.
He comes up quite often on the top of the South Island Facebook page, with
so
quite a few
he's
photos.
always really been interested in the history of the family and the region.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he feeds us all with his finds. Yeah.
So he doesn't live locally, he lives down the coast, doesn't he, or does he live here?
Well, no, he is a primary trained teacher, and he moved very quickly into principalship, and he taught on the west coast and in Blenheim for a number of years.
Okay.
And then he went down to Gore, much to his wife's dismay, but they ended up loving it down there.
Yeah.
And he still does relief teaching. Now he's 70 plus now, and he still does some day relief teaching. Yeah.
So out of the 7 of you, are you all school teachers?
Not quite. There are about 2 that aren't, and everyone either was a teacher or married a teacher.
Oh, okay.
So it's been awesome because school holiday time we've always been able to meet up.
Mm.
And because they were teachers and because they enjoyed sport, they all did a lot of coaching over their teaching years.
Yeah. You met the eligible John Goodman in early 1970s.
Yes.
And then proceeded to be married in 1970, can you remember the year? 1973.
Yeah.
So what can you tell me about his family history, and if you know where his love of rugby and cricket came from?
Well, I think they lived in Nelson. His mum Maisie was a matron at Nelson College, and she was really well loved and known in that area. And she was a great bowler.
Right, yeah.
And then his dad Cyril was a painter, plasterer, and he was a really hard-working man, amazing gardener, and he was rugby oriented. And it was interesting for me initially because Cyril was rival old boys. Len, John's brother, was Celtic, and then John was Nelson, and I always found that quite fascinating.
Yeah.
And I just imagined it would be to do with their friendships.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And Mum's brother, father, and brothers all were Celtic.
Okay,
Jack Moriarty was a life member at Celtic club as well.
Yeah, and he actually coached Len Goodman in a rugby team, so...
Your dad did?
Yeah, so that's a good...
There's always a bit of rivalry banter between Moriarty and Goodman. Celtic, Maris Nelson now, so...
Good healthy stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. But going back to Cyril, he actually done quite a bit of work on the Nelson club rooms, didn't he?
Yeah. And I think Nick wrote a note because he looked through that 100 Years of Rugby and that publication, and he wrote here that Cyril was made an honorary life vice president because of the work, building work he did.
Right, and that was for the club?
For the Nelson club,
yeah. I remember him.
I think the link was Tinker Phillips.
Okay, yeah.
And they were great mates, so did some building there.
Yeah, because I remember Cyril. I don't remember his wife Maisie. So when did she pass away then?
Well, I actually can't remember the year, but she died quite young, I think. And they found it very traumatic because she had cancer, and way back then the treatment wasn't as good as it is now.
Exactly, yeah. So did you know much about? So you would have known a bit about the game of rugby when you met Goody anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, like dirty washing and hours of practice and all that sort of thing. I knew it well, and I never thought I would marry a rugby man.
Okay.
I landed a real beaut,
Andrew, I can recall Trish telling me that your older brother Nick is the family historian. So hopefully, if possible, from Nick's notes, you could share with us the many roles that Goody executed within the club, starting from the year he first played. So Trish, you may want to participate in that one. So
1949, I think, said he started as a player.
Yeah.
So he's obviously had various roles, coaching and administrating roles. Says here he's a publicity officer.
Yeah.
And obviously he's done a lot of work around being the club historian as well. So I think for me the ones that stand out was the coaching of the senior team. That there's always some good banter between him and I around his. I think it was 1981 where they had a very strong team and went unbeaten, and then we were lucky enough in 2008 and 2012 I think it was, as a senior club, to be the first team to do that. Since that time, so there's always a bit of debate about which team would have won, and of course guys like Norm and Murray West and those guys were prominent players back then. So it was always good fun down at the club rooms after those championship finals, and obviously the Sunday that follows after a good final win, that there was some good debate going on.
So that
Dad was pretty adamant that his team would have come out on top. So that was good fun.
So that would have been Stuart Robertson would have been playing, Bob Neighbours,
They had a
Ronnie
very strong
Wall.
team, I think Murray was a Māori All Black, and so we had good fun trying to pick a 15 from those two eras as well. So that was good stuff.
So we're just looking at a photo which was taken back in 1964 of the senior team. Here's Goody here. So they were the winners of the Nelson Rugby Union Senior Championship. So that was before the Nelson Bay's championship.
Yeah.
So we've got some of the old. You know some of these guys, Trish, or not? Or this would have been. Well, how old would he have been in 1964?
Good question. He was born in 37. Yeah, he was born in
yeah.
1937. Yeah.
So somebody do the maths. 'Cause
Yeah, 37.
37. Okay.
Is he?
No,
27. Sorry.
27 in that
one.
photo.
27.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah,
you know,
There's old Bill Reid
and
Noel was
Bart,
my
yeah.
godfather.
and Carol and Gary Stewart,
Stewart,
your godparents too,
Yeah,
aren't
Carol's
they?
my godmother.
Carol,
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's Goody. I don't know who this guy. Well, there's Ted Anderson.
Don Fowler's in there, is he?
Yeah, Don's here. There's my dad. There's Alan Ashby,
Yes.
Maury Pugh, Daryl Bowater. These are the guys that I remember. Now this is Tony Gargiulio.
Yeah.
So this would have been the year after his father died suddenly of peritonitis. Ivan Guy, he coached the senior team
Yeah.
during Hoddy's time.
Tony was one of my early coaches at Nelson as
Yep.
well.
I've got a photo here.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and this is Jimmy Jennings.
Yeah.
So this is just a
Yes, and this is before I met John, you
Yeah,
see.
okay.
isn't it? Yeah, but I do know all those people you just mentioned. Yeah.
Trish, you became a very busy mum to 4 children, Nicholas, Jane, Andrew and finally Christopher, born mid-70s to early 80s. I know Goody's teaching job took him away from Central Nelson, so whereabouts did you settle during these times?
So first of all, we went to Tapawera Area School, and John was still involved with Nelson Club then for a year or so, I think.
Yeah.
But then he started coaching the Tapawera boys, and he was also coached Nelson Bays, didn't he, during that time?
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, and so he had to travel a lot every week to all those practices. Yeah, so it was pretty busy times because at school he always gave his lunch out at coaching cricket or rugby, and then after school there'd be skill sessions and things, and then he'd jump in the car and go off to Nelson to do his coaching there.
He was amazing really because this was all done voluntarily.
Yes.
Yeah, it was completely outside of his paid job of teaching, and yeah, it's so for you on a typical Saturday when all the family were involved in sport, what was a typical Saturday like for you?
Initially, getting up and breakfasting was an absolute disaster, but we did have good systems to have uniforms and things for people to get into quickly. And when we were at Tapawera, the boys used to travel by bus to Motueka for their rugby games.
Okay.
And some of them weren't old enough to play rugby over there, so it was really Nick doing that. And so everyone else was too young to be involved in team sport.
So from Tapawera, you moved to
Rye Valley School.
Yeah.
And it was the same there, like lunchtimes with sports coaching. And I think part of that was to keep some of the young men gainfully employed, because if they were busy with their sport, their behaviour was a lot more settled.
Yeah.
And Goody always had a way of saying that if you're not doing your work in the classroom, you're not going to be out here.
Oh, okay.
If you come to join a team, you've got to be pulling your weight in the classroom, and then when you come out to the team, you've got to be aware that you're part of a group, and you've got to do your best at all times with them. I think a lot of the parents really appreciated his way of doing things, because it helped the kids learn some self-discipline as well. So if they put their foot in a big way, they just missed out on a game, and so they quickly learned the value of trying your best, really.
Yeah. So how many years were you at Rye Valley for then?
Well, the family were there for about 10 years, and then it took John another year and a bit to actually leave graciously, because every time he thought he would leave, the area school tournament was run at Rye Valley, so couldn't he leave that year, and then he was thinking about leaving soon, and then the Aero team were coming through, so I thought, I can't leave them in the lurch yet, so I'll just stay a bit longer.
Okay.
So he was away from the family full time for about a year and a bit.
Oh, okay.
And then I got a teaching job in Nelson, a full-time one, and I was also studying to, I had a teacher certificate, but I wanted a degree status, so I was doing my study, and the kids were older and they were doing their study, and then the weekend would come and the sport would all happen. So we were really a busy family with one car, I realised the other day. So yeah, it was busy times, but the kids really enjoyed the rural lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it was when Jane and Nicholas were getting to 4th and 5th form level that we decided to come back into town, so that they knew what competition was about, because you know, we had a really good lifestyle in the country, not a lot of pressure on clothing or schoolwork or whatever. They just all trundled along. So and they came to the colleges and learnt about healthy competition before they might want to go off and do some tertiary study.
I didn't realise that you were down there for 10 years.
Yes, it was
That's
a long
quite a time,
time.
really.
Yeah, and people often say, you know, how could you bear living at Rye Valley for 10 years? But it was awesome, because wherever we went, there were always fantastic people to meet in each community, and just the way rural communities are run is awesome. And yeah, so during those years when John was heading out of the valley for the weekends to do the sport, you know, I would be helping with a rural kindergarten or play centre or rural support group, which was education for rural people, church, Sunday school. It was busy enough, for sure. And coaching the netball team. So,
because you had Cyril living with you at that time.
Yeah, he was awesome, because both at Tapulera and Rye Valley he had massive vegetable garden.
Oh, okay,
So he felt like he was contributing. And in both places he had, you know, the Tohatu at Tapulera and then the Rye Tavern. So he'd pop in this little Triumph Herald and people down.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah, it was great, because there was a girl, Jenny Chambers, one of the mums, she was the barmaid at both pubs, so Cyril thought it was Christmas when she finally came to Rye Valley. Yeah, and she used to tell the story about the 3 men at Rye Valley. One couldn't see properly, one couldn't hear properly, one couldn't talk properly. But they all had a ball for about an hour before they went home for their afternoon kip.
Okay, Andrew, as well as a trained teacher, you've now managed to carve out a successful career from playing rugby to now coaching at a national, international level. But I'd love to hear about your earliest memories of playing for the Nelson Rugby Football Club, beginning with were you a first five from the very start? We'll start with that.
Yeah, so probably my earliest rugby memories with Nelson Rugby Football Club were coming over the hill from Rye Valley. So when I grew up, I played my junior rugby for Polaris till I was about 8 or 9, but Mum and Dad would often bring me over if there was 7-a-side tournaments and stuff, weekend cluster days to play with Nelson. So I remember turning up to Green Meadows one day and running around in bare feet. I think everyone else was starting to wear boots then, and I still was running around barefoot. But as soon as we moved over to Nelson, obviously after that, my involvement with the Nelson Rugby Football Club started, and I had, as the photo down here shows, Tony Garge and Dave Neal and those guys. We had some awesome fun back then. It was great living here, because we just used to walk home from school and trot across the road to training. I think used to bring a couple of mates back from school, and we used to eat. Mum and Dad had a house, and then a couple of loaves of bread, and then walk across the road and train, and then stay on after training for another hour or so, kicking a ball around, and just having Neil Park across the road there was awesome. And
Probably great,
and I think the other memories were being a ball boy for the club when the senior team was really strong. Guys like Bevan Kerr-Wallander and Johnny Rooteny and Dave the Rooteny brothers and Tom Maddock and all those guys stuck out of my mind to used to go down to the park and get a hot dog and coke. And first it was a ball boy, and then I started going up into the scoreboard when I was a little bit older with Errol, helping him up there. So I used to love going down and watching the senior team after our junior rugby at the park, go down to Trafalgar and watch those games. It was cool. And obviously hanging around in the club rooms while Dad had a couple of brown fizzies. And,
brown fizzies. So who were your coaches in those early years then, apart, so we know Tony Gardulio, so...
and Dave Neal, because his son Mark was obviously in our team there. Obviously Dave done a lot with the senior club as well, and Nelson Bays later on. Simon Martin, who was his youngest boys are playing for the club now, so he was one of my early coaches as well. I think those guys carried us most of the way through that junior age group.
Yeah, okay. So you were always a first five?
Played a little bit of first and second five all over the back line back then really. So mainly 10 and 12.
So when developing your own kicking style, was there a senior player that influenced your own style? Or did you just...
I just remember our dad and my older brother Nick obviously used to come over. Nick he used to kick a good goal as well, but Dad was always over at the park with us. I remember I've still got a cassette tape somewhere of Dad gave me Grant Fox's video cassette player, and so obviously modelled a little bit off him and his head down follow through, his words that he used to visualise when he was kicking. And there's a funny photo of Dad down, like giving a bit of strife. There's that photo down at the club room with the senior goal kicking coach that's up on the ball there, which is quite funny considering he played most of his rugby at prop and lock. But around all that technical kind of stuff with his teaching background and his coaching background, he was quite good around just making sure I had a good process to follow and keeping it as consistent as possible. But as I said, the two brothers used to come over and kick a lot of balls with us as well, so a bit of a family thing to go over there and have a kick around.
Because you've certainly got the physique to be in the forward pack, hasn't he? Or the Richie McCaw. So the players, you probably just mentioned them. What players do you remember that impressed you during those early years? But anyway, we'll look at that photo now. So, okay, so we've got a photo here which was taken at the 1995, the 125th celebrations of the Northern Rugby Football Club, and there's a photo of Andrew walking down the street, or in fact that's through by the park, isn't it? Anyway, it's the 1950s, and I see there's Kerry Neal here, and I think that's Bill Black, and I'm not sure who this guy here is, and I'll find out about that. So so you would have been how old then, Andrew?
I think it was under 12, under 30. I would have been 12 or 13, I believe. 12.
So then we scroll down to a photo of and I presume this would have been taken for the 125th, wouldn't it?
I think if I remember right, I think we had a club day out in the park that day as well. The old club days, which used to be awesome fun. We used to have your kicking competitions and your running races and a whole lot of different activities you could collect points with in your age group.
So that was the Johnny Nelson trophy. Would you have been sort of competing for that?
Yeah.
So everybody competed, so it was a fairly level playing field, even though there was the big difference in ages. So here's Tony Garge here, the coach, and I don't know, perhaps you could just point out some of those players.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of good friends that are still hanging around with now, or played many years for the club. So we've got Shane Greaves down here, who's obviously played a number of over 150 games now, I think, or maybe even nearly 200 for the senior club, and
Wow.
He's probably one of the better club players I've played with at Nelson, and someone that could have gone a lot further. Probably just a bit underrated outside the club, but he's been top performer for the club over a number of years. Nathan Madden, who's another good friend, who's moved back into the region now and played a little bit for the senior Bs a couple of years ago, but he's a local policeman. Mark Neal here, who's Dave's son, again, who are both heavily involved with the club over a number of years. Who else have we got in there? Sky Lance Atkinson was a very good player, but moved away out of the region. But yeah.
Michael Holder.
Yep.
I remember him from school because he's the same age as one of my sons, and his father was Kevin Holder, who's a teacher.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
His wife, his mother was Paula Holder. Paula's preschools. I think she started that business. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. So there's another 3 photos taken at the 125th. So we've got the 1950s, where Goody's in this one.
Yep.
Don. My dad, Bill Black. I can't remember these. There's Ray Pawson. There's that guy again, Kerry Neal, Ted Anderson, and the guy Ray Paul. So that was the 1950s. This is the 1960s. Fred Curry.
Yes.
Fred, he's still around. I had a good yak to him the other day. He's hopes to get to the reunion. Tony Walsh. Now that's Jeff Moore, I think.
Yes, he's a teacher.
Ron Fabian.
Yeah.
Now, Hoddy did tell me who these. There's Ted, there's Goody, Russell Dixon.
Yep.
Who's that guy there? Don't know. This is Wayne Manson. Oh, sorry, Brian. So we go down to this bottom one, which is the 1970s. So Rob McKegney, yeah. Goody, there's old Westy, Simon Powell, there's Peter Robertson, Kerry, Bob, Stewie Damon. Yeah, you call him Norman.
Yeah.
And Ross Delabosca. Trish, I know you've always backed Goody 100%, all the way with his passion for rugby and cricket. So we always need to acknowledge what so many wives and mums do on the home front. I dare say you've fed and supported the many young men he has coached. So do you have any good stories about the antics of some of these young characters, or for that matter, any fun occasions that will forever be remembered?
I was talking to Barbara before we had this interview, and one very early memory was not long after we were married. We were living out at the Hera schoolhouse, and John decided to have a training run out there. And then for some reason he decided everyone should stay for a meal. And I looked in the fridge and I think I had a kilo of mince, and I thought, gosh, that's not going to go very far. So I found a whole lot of veggies and things and stuck it all in the pot and mixed it up. And then I really over-seasoned it very heavily with curry and had a big pot of rice. And I thought, I wonder how this is going to go down. And everyone was so polite, they ate it, but not one person came back for seconds. So I knew it had worked, so I was pretty proud of myself then. And the other one involving food was out at Tapawera once. The team came out for a barbecue, and about a week before they came, we'd put half a beast in our freezer and had all the mince in one basket and all the steak in another, as you do. And some of these young men put their flagons in the freezer to cool them off before they were ready for drinking, and they burst all through my meat, and they froze in there. And so forever after, I was sort of falling into the freezer with my hammer and chisel, taking out each packet, and we sort of had to eat all the mince and then all the steak and the odd roast that was lying at the side. And at first I was furious, but as the years went by, I grew to enjoy telling the story, but it was not good. And just things I remember about that first, early married life was John was coaching a senior reserve team, and there were people from every place in the world, sort of in like different jobs and different personalities and things, and he had to sort of mould them into a team. And so in those early days, he always said to me, if I take on a coaching job, I'm going to do it for 3 years.
Yeah.
1 year to bring them all together, second year skills and all the rest, and third year let everybody take us on, sort of thing. So I always realised that it was a 3-year job. And these boys were hilarious, and my job on a Friday night was to ring around them all and remind them what time they were meeting and where they were meeting, and bring all your uniform with you, sort of thing. And so that was always hilarious. And then, but they were very socially, they were just awesome fun. Jack Hikaroa used to get out his guitar, and Wayne Martin on the piano, and I'm not actually sure whether that was in another team, but that social side of the club in those early years we were married were just great fun, really. And that was sort of like a socialness in the club that was just natural after a game to stay on and have something to eat and fun. And of course John was always playing the game 1, 2 or 3 times more by talking, and all these young lads would swing me around the dance floor, so I always had a great time down there while he was still talking rugby.
So were you involved in any of the club fundraising events?
Oh, just if there was ever baking events or providing food, I did quite a bit of that in the early years. But I was a new teacher, so a lot of my weekend was preparing for my classes, because it was quite new to me, whereas Goody had it all sussed, and he managed to somehow, do pretty thorough coaching and very thorough teaching.
He must have been super organised.
Yeah, he was actually, and I think that organisation of team and things was always high up on the priority list. And something just flashed. Oh, that's right. It's one of the rugby boys from Buccaneers. It might have been Andy Jennings actually. Was talking to me after John had passed away and told the story of the Buccaneers. Like, people used to get really nervous if John gave them a job and it wasn't done properly, even the men. And Andy was saying he was in charge of uniform this day, and he was over at Neil Park, and there was one pair of socks and a jersey missing, and he just couldn't find it anywhere, and he checked and double checked. But he finally came across the road, handed the gear bag over to go to the laundry, and he was thinking, how will I tell Goody there's a shirt and socks missing? And John answered the door, and he still had his jersey and socks on. He'd come home for a shower. So that provided a good laugh for everyone.
Andrew, I'm curious to know at what age or stage you began to set goals for yourself. So would you mind talking us through briefly where your playing career has led you? Beginning with how many years did you play for the Nelson Rugby Football Club before heading off to do tertiary training, and then onwards until you decided to call time on your playing career. So you've got 10 minutes.
So I suppose, I started playing for Nelson when I came back from my study, so I went down to Otago University after leaving Nelson College to study physical education, and done a year of Teachers College. And then I was lucky enough, 2006, it was the first year that Tasman were forming, and I got a job back at Nelson College, so teaching PE, so it worked out really well to come back to Nelson. I had a job at my old school, which I was really happy about, and obviously got the chance to come back and play for Nelson, which I hadn't been able to do since I under 13s, because I obviously went through the college rugby system after that, and then into playing for a club down Dunedin, so it was awesome to come back. had a really strong group as soon that year I came back. Gary Stevens was coaching then, so he was a really good organised club coach that was really proud Nelson club man. So it was awesome to come back and play for the club then, and managed to get what I've been playing for the club for 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
From there, while I was playing for the Marco, and then kind of overseas opportunities started to come along. So we first went over to Japan for a year,
Okay, yeah.
2010, but then came back and played a couple more years for Nelson Rugby Football Club and Tasman, and then went over to Ireland for a couple of years, which was another awesome opportunity. So, and then between that came back and played for Nelson again, and then managed to get 1 more year over in Japan. So it was a bit, yeah. But in 2016, finally came back. I played for 15, 16, and yeah, really wanted to get my club 100 game Blazers. So I'd just been appointed as the Tasman assistant coach in 2016, and there was a bit of discussion around the union didn't really want me to play club rugby anymore because of the role I was in. I needed to be involved around the other clubs as well, helping with skill development, etc. But I said I wouldn't take the role if I couldn't play club rugby, because the club 100 game Blazer was something that meant a lot to me. So managed to swing them to let me play for 1 more year, which was awesome season. We ended up winning the Tasman Trophy that year, and just had a really good time playing rugby for the club again, with not having to worry about the pressures of trying to make rep teams or anything outside that. So it was pretty cool playing with Ethan Blackadder and Quinn Strange and Dave Avilli and all those young guys that were just coming out of college, and seeing all those guys develop into awesome players that were going well at Super and international level now, with Dave having capped the All Blacks. So it was really it was a cool year. I'm glad I got to do it and get the Blazer tucked away in the cupboard. What else would we ask there about goals? Well, having Dad as a father around goal setting, it was probably quite young really. He was involved as a manager and coach when I was playing for the Nelson College First 15. So we had a lot of conversations about rugby, around how he saw the game, and I suppose it's helped shape what I do as a coach now. And you already talked about his planning. It's something that stuck with me, the amount of detail he used to go into with his coaching roles, and he's got endless notebooks out there. There's piles and piles and piles of them with game plans, and right back from when he was senior coach in that 81 area, around all his trainings, what the game plan was, individual notes around players. It's pretty cool to go through, and we always go through and have reads of it every now and then. But so the goal setting would have started kind of in my later couple of years at school. It's still going down to uni. I remember Dad driving me down to Otago, and he was always education's first, sport comes second, and then the social life. You've got to have a good balance of both there, but make sure you get your education first. So it wasn't really, well, growing up I wanted to play for Nelson Bays because that was the team, that was the goal. You'd go down and watch. I remember watching Warren Johnson kick the goal to win the second division and all that stuff. So we were inspired to play for Nelson Bays. So just amazing to come back and have the opportunity to play for Tasman in the top tier, and where that's all gone now is it's awesome for the young kids coming through the region now. It's probably gone off track a little bit, but.
So how did other clubs compare to the Nelson Rugby Football Club?
The other clubs that I've played for?
Yeah.
I suppose I was lucky enough to play, like the Southern club that I played for was had a strong history as well, and I think it attracted me to them and why I enjoyed playing with them. Once looking back now, it was quite similar to Nelson. They had a real strong family feel, and back in those days, back in 2006 when I came back to the club, as we talked about before the camera went on, there was a real vibe in the club rooms. A real strong junior club and senior club. We had a good senior B team as well, and we had a women's team back then as well. So there was a real strong buzz, and the club rooms, everyone used to be there till getting kicked out at 12 o'clock. So I know there's a little bit of challenge around that in the game now, but yeah, we used to love staying around at the club and having a good yarn and sing along, and Gunner and all those boys telling us the stories. Norm was always there, always unimpressed with how we had some were young players that liked to run the ball and attack from anywhere, where he was always used to say, you need to kick the corners more, you need to kick the other opposition. The pressure used to be funny as a new 10 came through. There was James Marshall and his brother Tom, and then Willie Havili, and all these young first fives that were quite attacking mindsets, and you can see Norm pin them in the corner and give them the old, make sure you learn to kick the corners, kick off both feet, and he's awesome to have around, those connections with those guys that have had a strong history at the club.
So out of all the games of rugby you've played, which one game has been the most satisfying, and which do you have one that's the most frustrating? I ask you this because my son Glenn remembers a Ranfurly Shield Challenge against Wellington in 2008 where he thought you guys were robbed.
Yeah.
26-20. So is there any sort of...
All those two Ranfurly Shield games that we have had, they've both been quite tough actually, because as you say, first one against Wellington we were up and we got a late yellow card to Carnful to Aliti, real average call, and they ended up scoring 2 tries late in the game to beat us, when they were a really strong team there. So that was hard to take. It was probably harder to take in 2012 when we went up to the Neki. That was a great game, but yeah, it was just being captain in that game and a couple of decisions and a couple of missed opportunities, and ended up going down, I think it was 49-44 or something like that. So that was a hard one to take actually for a while, but those games for Tasman are probably the ones that stuck out. Now that you've talked about that, the ones that stuck out at club level were always, I used to be devastated, didn't I? I used to stay in my room and or stay on the couch for days after we lost a couple of finals to Marist. It was awesome. We had some great rivalries with some other clubs like Marist and Waimea over the years when I was playing. With strong competition, and one final against Marist we went down in a tight game at Trafalgar Park. Really hurt. But I had some awesome games like the Noel Barden game every year. For me, it's been a big game that I'd love to still play in if I could every year. But I can't remember much about Noel myself. He passed away when I was quite young, but a lot of stories, and I feel really connected to him as my godfather. So it's a
he's your godfather, because he's godfather to my oldest son as well.
Yeah, Norm, I think as well, introduced him.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you've okay.
So it's a game I always prepared for, like it was. I suppose like it felt like a test match for us and those guys, like the club player playing against Waimea was always it was a big deal. Always had the old photo come out of down on the sideline, and Dad often came over to the club rooms and told some stories to the new players in the club, just so they had that sense of what the game actually meant. It was awesome times, playing in those games. There was a lot of heart. And, always lucky enough to never have lost one. So
I've learnt through talking to April Marshall, who's, as you know, our first and only woman president to date, that you've coached some lower grade teams for the Nelson Rugby Football Club. April has a nephew, Carter Marshall, that you coached, and she spoke very highly of you. So what I'd like to know is, at what point of your playing career did you start to seriously consider full-time coaching as a career change if you were given the opportunity? So what?
Leon and KK probably made that decision for me. I came back from an serious injury, and at Leinster ruptured my Achilles, and I came back to New Zealand with hopes to play Mitre 10 Cup again.
Okay.
And was getting a little bit older, and I started getting a few more injuries, and got myself into pretty good condition, and played a pre-season game for Tasman and broke my hand in the first minute of my return match, and I was just like, couldn't catch a break, and then Leon kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, mate, there might be a coaching opportunity here for you. And he's, I was kind of like, oh, still want to kind of,
Yeah.
But I kind of took that as maybe it is time to.
Yeah, it's a sign.
Yeah, it's a sign. Yeah, but I'd always, I suppose when I moved back to Nelson to start teaching at Nelson College, I took on under 14 team straight away at the college, and that had lots of James Lowe and a couple of those boys in it. And then the next year I was involved in the first 15. So as I was playing, I was coaching along the way as well, and always knew in the back of my mind that it would be something that I'd want to get into. And I didn't expect it to happen as quickly as it has, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with some great coaches in the past few years, which I've learned a lot of, and been very fortunate.
So that James Lowe, he was the winger, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's the one that suffers from rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. Yeah, Hoddy loves his. Used to love watching him play.
Yeah, he's top talent.
Yeah. So where's he? Is he still playing?
He's over in Leinster at the club that I played over the
so he's
Islands
still
as well.
over there.
He's doing very well over there. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the green jersey in the next couple of years, maybe. Yeah. He's going really good.
Trish. Yes. Right. This is something I've always wanted to know. If I recall this correctly, at the beginning of the new millennium, Goody organised the Nelson Rugby Football Club to have a team play rugby at midnight, so they could have the distinction of being the first rugby football club in the world to play the first game of the century. So was this ever validated? I remember the game as a spectator. I was there. Hoddy was playing, and I remember Diane Lewis was the referee. I probably should have directed this question to April Marshall, who was the president at the time, but was it ever validated?
Oh, I've got no idea actually, but I don't think it needed to be because they had so much fun. They got what they needed out of it. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a great idea.
It was, yeah.
John's always been an ardent, Nelson Rugby Football Club man to do with its history, and so he just thought it was a great idea to then take the cake for that, but I can't remember whether it was validated. Yeah.
It was a terrible, the weather was atrocious.
Terrible,
yeah, it was terrible.
They had a few drinks at half time and then we played the second half, I think.
I think there was some ring-ins as well to play, and I think a friend, Ray Burrows, I think he took the field, and I think he wrenched his back. This is where injuries can, the idea is great and the dream's great, but could come at a cost. But it was 20 years ago.
I thought it was a very clever idea.
It was a great idea. Andrew, your biggest supporters and mentors during your developing years would have undoubtedly been your mum and dad, brothers and sister. So was there anyone outside of your family that was also a big influence on your playing career?
That's a good question. As I said, I was lucky enough to have some great coaches that have kind of shaped the way I'm coaching now as well, but started off with Kieran Kane and Leon McDonald coaching me at Tasman.
Okay.
So had a great relationship with them when I was playing. They were both such passionate Tasman men, and had a lot of time to help grow us as players. So really appreciated the time they took to try and make us better as individuals and as a team. And then later on, when I went to, lucky enough to go and play for Leinster, I had Joe Smith as a coach as well. Who was an amazing coach, and I learnt a lot off. And again, he's helped shape the way I'm coaching now. But as you said, it was family growing up that supported me through and helped me along the way. So probably favourite players growing up were Michael Jones. Met him in Rugby when I was a young fella. So
did you? Okay.
So
is he still tied up is he still tied up with rugby at all?
Yeah,
I know
does
he's
a lot
got
of stuff with Pacific Island
okay.
players group, and his son's just coming through the ranks
That's
now.
right,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
a New Zealand Sevens squad, I think, and
Okay.
doing some pretty good things. So he might be a name to watch out for the next couple of years. Yeah.
And he's had numerous uncles giving him lots of advice.
Yeah, the uncles. Yeah.
I don't know how worthwhile it was, but they all had plenty to say.
Yeah. And Peter Gregg was the first 15 coach through school that coached me at Nelson Club as well. Had a different skill set around the way he managed the group and made sure we had a good time and good fun. And yeah, he was someone that ended up teaching alongside and coaching alongside as well. So yeah, had a bit of an influence on me growing up as well.
Trish, share with us which of your grandchildren are now continuing the Goodman tradition by playing for the Nelson Rugby Football Club, and with it your involvement in their progress. I know you're probably the number one supporter. So
Yeah.
So
Christopher, our youngest son, has 2 boys playing rugby. Jack, who's now 8, and Louis, who's 5. And Jack has grown up hearing all the rugby chat, and he thinks he knows quite a lot more than he probably does. And I remember recently Andrew was doing an analysis on his computer, and Jack was perched up on the chair beside him at 8 saying, "Why is that guy doing that, Andrew? I think he should be doing something else." And I'm thinking, oh no. But he just loves it, you know, and as a 5-year-old with his spindly little legs, he just got out there and gave it his best. So, and he's got, you know, as he's grown up a bit, he's developing some skills now. But a favourite moment for me was not long after John passed away. We were over at Neil Park, and he was involved in a game, and Jane and I were a few minutes late, but we got there, and he was charging down the sideline with the ball, and he looked up and grinned at us and managed to get to the end and score his try, and he said that was for Granddad. You know, and it was, he's so young to be even thinking like that. I thought it was really special. But Louis been his supporter. He used to sit on the sideline in a deck chair with his blankie and hot chocolate and a marshmallow and little woolly hat on, and then he decided when he was 5 that he'd quite like to dress up, you know, like the rugby players and get out there. So he started, and he used to do the odd cartwheel and talk to people on the sideline and that sort of thing. And then about the 3rd week he was playing, he wouldn't go on because it was raining and he didn't want to get his uniform wet. So he's a different kettle of fish. So it's really fun watching them all. But one of the spectators said to me one day, "What are you doing back here?" I think it was a parent from the school that I worked at, and I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I thought you'd done with rugby," and I said, "No such luck." 4 grandsons now, and they laughed their heads off.
Andrew, it's heartening to see one of the Nelson Rugby Football Club's very own continuing to do well, with you now being part of the coaching team for the Marco and the Crusaders. But what is it about the Crusaders environment that the team consistently keeps turning out great results time and again? I've checked the stats, and in the 24 years the Super competition's been operating, they've been in the final 14 times, of which they've won the title 10 times. The remaining 10 times, all bar 2, they've been in the top 7. They obviously have the recipe down to a fine art, but I can't help wondering what that X factor they have that other teams don't. So would you like to comment on that? What do you...
As I said, it's my first involvement was 3 years ago when I was lucky enough to get a role down there, and it's been an eye opener for me as well. Just the environment that's been created down there around wanting to get better. Really, everyone comes into work every day, and the goal is to get better every day. So there's no resting on what's happened before, or everyone comes in and there's a real high accountability where players can question other players and no one takes offence to it, and the same with us. We got so much respect for the way that how hard the players work, and we can see them doing their own individual analyst work on the computers and everything like that. So they're always open to come and ask us questions and vice versa. So it's just the environment where and it's everyone's trying to get better and everyone has fun doing it. It's Razor Leeds a really good fun kind of people are excited to come in. It's not
it's quite unique, really, isn't it?
When you've got someone like that just is himself, that encourages everyone else to be themselves as well and come in, and there's always a bit of laughter and but when the hard work needs to be done, the boys are just amazing at giving everything they've got to get the result, really. So
but they've sort of like, who coached before Scott? That was that Black?
Yeah, Toddy was there. Yeah.
So I mean, he was a different, certainly not like Razor.
Yeah.
And then prior to that, who coached?
I've had some amazing
Bobby
coaches there,
Deans, I
Robbie
think.
Deans, Wayne Smith.
But they've just seemed they've obviously got there's a culture there that that just seems to sort of, that they seem to have that.
Yeah.
None other, I don't know. It's South Island. South Island area. I don't know.
Just respect and trust are the two things.
Integrity is a big one. Doing the right thing. And no one's watching is a big thing. You go in there on a Sunday morning and see guys chipping away on the computers, and guys that haven't been involved. Guys that miss out on selection are a massive part of what we do down there, because they're always, they're obviously disappointed not to be selected, but then they just put in amazing work to make sure that the starting guys are prepared to play. So it's a big part of it as well.
During your playing or coaching travels, have you met or heard of Todd Barbarill?
Todd Barbarill? No, it doesn't ring a bell.
He works for Rugby New Zealand, and leads the marketing of the All Blacks and Black Ferns, alongside other New Zealand rugby teams and competitions, as well as overseeing the development of its sponsorship, licensing and retail partnership programs. You haven't heard of him? Okay. No. Well, his father was Warren Barbarill, and he was employed by the Crusaders franchise well over 20 years ago, and I think his role was to sort of assist players, the families, to sort of settle in Christchurch. I think that was his job. Well, Todd had an uncle who was very involved with the Nelson Club as a team manager during the 70s, and Trish, you may remember him, Kevin Payne.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So that's what I was getting to, the connection, and I just sort of wonder, you probably, now that I've mentioned him, you may...
What you said around connecting the families down there is probably another thing that the Crusaders do so well. Is
they do,
big family thing, like with Nina and my boys going down there, they get them involved so early and make them feel part of the environment and connect them up with all the other families, and you don't get that at all the clubs. So they do a great job of a real family feel.
And that's huge,
connecting past players.
Because if your wife and family aren't settled, aren't happy, it has a bit of a domino effect that you're going to be, well, you're not going to be able to give your 100% thinking about your rugby if you've got discontent in the background. But no, Kevin Payne, he was very involved. He was a great friend. Trish, I've discovered that in the past the club has always looked out for its very own bereaved families. And I hope you don't mind talking about how the club assisted you when Goody passed away.
It's 3 years today since Goody died.
Okay.
And I always remember the support we were given, because it was a bit of a shock when he died, because it happened suddenly at the end. And I don't know what happens to your brain during those times, but I was just sort of floating along, and I remember sitting over in that chair and seeing all these people walking past the French doors there carrying boxes, and thought, I wonder who they are and what they're doing. And that was the Garge boys bringing their produce into the home, and then Gunner came, we came to the hospital when Goody was dying, and prayed, and it was just awesome. And yeah, and then they just said they would be doing the after-match function, so to speak. And yeah, just the support we had from them around that time was incredible. I'll never forget it. It was really appreciated. And yeah, the whole family was just bowled over. But, yeah.
I'll never forget at the funeral, because we had it at the park, and you got up and spoke, and your introduction was how you kind of met Goody, and you your analogy was that you used a rugby phrase, I tackled him, got him, and never let him go.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah,
Do you
I
remember
remember
that?
because Jack, my dad, always used to say that to the boys on the Saturday